Welcome to CGAllianc. Bang bang.
That's me. Just got to get my sound down so far. It's typical. Let's try it again.
That hasn't happened in a long time, actually. Yeah, but kia ora whanau, welcome to the channel. Welcome to tonight. We have another special night for you guys. So, as you know, my name is Mana.
We have Tohu, aka Guns Blazing.
Jaja, and then
welcome,
tonight's special guest, awesome guest, we have on the side.
Oh, kia ora, I'm Toni Boynton. I'm the kaitono for Waiariki for the Labour Party.
Kia ora,
Kia ora, welcome. Awesome to have you. Thank you for coming in as well.
And before we kick off first, we've got a couple of big pānui. The first one is the war in Israel. So, I don't know, bro. I woke up and stuff was happening.
Palestine's Israel. So Israel has is accommodating a large section of the Middle East. Philistines on the top right, medium size, and then the Gaza is on the bottom left, which is like Muslims as well, Palestinians. And they launched a surprise attack out of nowhere, I guess, just out of
50 years from the Yom Kippur War.
Yep.
So while the Israelis were kind of about to start a new day, Hamas come out of nowhere. But I'm not going to get into the detail for Israel, Palestine. We love you.
Yeah, we'll have a react after this.
Come on, whānau. We need his peace, but I know it's not that easy. But first to our whānau in Israel and Palestine, love you all. Yeah. And also to our whānau up in Afghanistan and the earthquake. Terrible.
Yeah. All of the villagers. Hope you guys get well. Anybody, all of the like people who help villagers and stuff. Hopefully, everybody better get down there and help them out. There are a lot of families obviously in need.
2,000 displaced. In the village of Herat. So, aroha to all our whānau there.
And then still aroha to the people in Maui as well and Ukraine. Oh. Yeah.
It's a world, whānau. It's a world. And on the internet, we watch it all day, every day.
You feel very privileged to be in a country like New Zealand, where our biggest conflict at the moment is the elections. That's the biggest conflict
and we can talk about it. I think that's really nice.
Without having to fight and
So, Toni, I have seen you on the cars, on billboards, on flyers. I've heard you online. So it's really love to meet you in person.
Yeah. It's lovely to meet you, Taua, and all the mahi that you've done over the years, and also to meet you as well and be invited here.
Thank you. We just want to start off with asking about your background, and as a Māori warden as well. Is it Kapu Te Rangi Māori warden?
So I'm a Māori ward councillor for Whakatāne Council, and so the ward that I'm the councillor for is Kapu Te Rangi, which includes Whakatāne and Ohope. So it's more our township side. Oh, sorry. And so I, so part of being elected to the council was about the establishment also of Māori wards. So Māori wards are Māori representative seats on councils and local government. And so there was a big kaupapa on that a couple of years ago where there was a petition that was worked through with lots of whānau across the motu and also Action Station that was delivered to Parliament requesting a change to the legislation because for nearly 20 years we had the ability to establish a Māori representative seat, but there was this little hook in there. That was a bit of a kaikiri hook that basically said, oh yes, you can have the seats, but just kidding, and would just pull it away from us, and it would be difficult. But got that over the line, and that established Māori representative seats, which allowed a lot of us to run for those.
During that whole time, I remember we were both on the battlefield.
Hard out.
What were you experiencing?
Oh, it's similar to what's happening now. So part of the Māori wards was that you had legislation that allowed it to be set up and councils agreed to it, but a small percentage of the community could put a small petition in and asked for a referendum to overturn the decision of the council, and that was only for Māori seats.
That's
no other seats.
Racist.
And so that would mean, I think a lot of us were up against a $250,000 campaign by Hobson's Pledge, and a lot of us on the ground at Opu, we just, we were already pohara, but as you do, we sort of tried to pull together our own funds, our Māori Land Trusts, but they had the money, and the ugliness that you're seeing now, that kind of stuff was happening back then, but in our own hometowns, it's terrible.
And what kind of ages were they? Just all a particular age?
Yeah, so when you think about Hobson's Pledge, then you think about Don Brash.
Right.
So you have wealthier Pākehā males who have a lot of time, who have a lot of money, to be able to put their energies towards that kind of stuff. And
so you had to respond in a grassroots kind of a way with rangatahi, kaumātua, hui, wānanga.
Yeah, big time. And it was, I think too, half of it was about education, and that's the sort of side that's really missing, because not only do we have to try and rally support, but we also have to come up with the kōrero, to explain what it is. What are Māori wards? Why do we need it? Not only for our Māori whānau, but also too for our Pākehā whānau. So we always know that we're going to be outnumbered in the numbers, and that it's our Pākehā whānau who have the majority of getting things over the line because of their votes. And so we had a Māori comms team and a Pākehā comms team. Right. And it wasn't about being separatist, it was understanding that our Pākehā whānau have a different way of how they'll interpret what we're trying to do. And it's easier for them to use their own speak in terms of how they can ensure that Pākehā whānau are understanding what the kaupapa is, without feeling like they're being threatened or thing. And the same with our Māori whānau, because whenever our whānau have to stand up and speak to Pākehā to defend themselves, it's harder. And also too, we have to take on what they say back to us. If we have our own Pākehā allies speaking to power to themselves, it's different. And that takes a weight off us sometimes, because not only do we have to, we're pohara and we're trying to do this, we're trying to come up with all the information, and then we have to take on that as well, being the educators to Pākehā. It's good when our allies can speak to themselves in a language that they can understand without being threatened, without feeling threatened, because there's a brown face in front of them. So sorry.
No, so I'm just thinking through it all, and it's definitely down to the differences. That's why they won't listen. It's definitely down to the differences and the fact that they have to get their own people to even talk to them, to tell them what's up and how they should actually be treating Māoris.
Well, I remember Ben came in and he mentioned, we asked him a similar question. Should schools teach civics? Should we be teaching these basic things about what is democracy, why is your vote important?
Out.
And he said yes, but you mentioned there's another layer again about speaking to our whānau.
Yes, community, if we had wānanga about civics education, I mean, civics education sounds like, sort of like boring, but, a wānanga in terms of for our whānau, on our maraes, in our communities, because, yes, we have really strong ranatahi coming through, but we also need to support them by empowering the communities that they're from. Because, sometimes our whānau, the ahika and stuff, they're focused on that mahi. And so when you've got people who are trying to rally for something, we need the rest of the community to understand the kaupapa as well. I mean, most do, but in terms when it comes to civics education, it's about, you know, when our whānau, and I've seen it, you know, with the ad Raukara, when our Māori whānau understand how the game works and all the different parts, we change it up. You know, we change it up. We're innovative. We, you know, not only can we succeed in it, but we take it to different levels. And I think that's the same when it comes to civics, when it becomes used to understanding that about politics. Because, you know, I've had my cousins go, oh, cuz I'm not into politics and stuff. And I'm like, oh, how can you not be into politics? He goes, oh, you know, that's for those flash people. And I go, cuz, you know, like when Auntie comes to the hapuhi and she puts on the agenda, there's 3 teaspoons missing from the wharekai. That's politics. And he's like, hey. I said, because that's got to do with the mana of the hapu.
That's right.
So everything in terms of you as a hapu maintaining your manaaki for your guest, it's about your whakaaro that you've put on to making sure there's all the teaspoons are there, but also so it's all those different parts, and those are about ensuring that when you're around a governance table or if you're in politics and stuff, so all the different whakaaro that goes into that decision making has an impact in terms of how you're able to look after things, how you're able to look after people. And so we practice, we're political by nature. Right. We can't help it. And we're a political phenomenon. I mean, we're not even meant to exist, yet here we are. Yeah, so this whole kupu around, oh, well, we're not political. So, oh, we're a political phenomenon. We live politics. We live and breathe it in the way that we operate, in the way that we live in our own culture. You know, even having our huis and things like that. It's just a different place and time, different tikana, different rules in those council and government places. And yes, some of it's not nice, but our āhua in terms of how we are in those spaces, and it is about being in those spaces. You decolonise the space with your presence alone, just by being in the room. Yeah. They can't have those conversations they used to have. And if they do, and if it falls out of their mouths, you're there to be able to go, excuse me? You know, you're there to call it out. You're there to challenge the whakaaro and thoughts that have been going on for so many years by the fact that you are in the room. So, yeah, it'd be awesome to have civics wānana, or another name I thought of it was back in the rā they had those decolonisation huis. But this is about bringing another level to it. Yeah,
it's more about our active participation.
So
what's a little bit about yourself? Like where were you raised? Who influenced you?
Okay, kei noha kei Whakatāne, so I live in Whakatāne. I was brought up in Whakatāne and Waimana, so my Waimana, so my grandparents lived up in Matahi, a little place called Matahi, which is just before Te Uruera, and pretty much every weekend, every holidays, we lived up there. And Dad played lots of rugby, so they used to go to that, and we'd go to Nans of them. And that was back in, they had no power, you know, so it was the old kerosene lamps and candles, and, you know, Nan and them had their animals, and you had all your chores and your wood and everything. And, you know, they would have harvest seasons too. So there were different years in which the paddocks would be used for different things. And so one of my memories is that we had to go across the river to collect all the fern bracken to bring back and all the nannies were harvesting all the potatoes, so they'd be sitting in their fields, and then they would have their little piles, and our job was to run from the grab the riwai from that pile and put it into the bigger pile. And they used to have the rua or the pits in the ground, but they had built, well, they call them dark sheds. So they had these dark sheds which we would line the fern bracken with, and that was to keep the air so they didn't rot. And that, so there's all those kinds of memories.
Do you remember singing to the mara, singing the waiatas with the kuia, and singing to the kumara? Did you?
No, I don't know if we
would. Must have been
would.
just a tana thing, whānau.
Yeah. Well, they might have done it. I mean, we were just, all we were worried about was wanting to go for a swim, So if your main aim was to get your chores done, so that you could get to go for a swim, because that was when a lot of it was when it was warmer. And you'd go, you'd have to go to, they had orchards back then, so you'd go and we had these plum trees, and then you'd sit up there and get a sore guts because you're eating all these plums you shouldn't be, they're burnt ripe. So at the time, as kids you go, oh, we're bored, but I look back now, obviously, and you go, oh, we were so lucky. We were so lucky to we used to always be mad at our parents for leaving us up there. But we're really lucky. Yeah, but no, that was just when I'm in my younger childhood. But I went to Kura at Trident, and then I had did a bit of arts and craft over here in Rotorua. I was weaving. Then went up to Kaitaia, because my auntie was a master weaver, so I wanted to weave under her, and went up to.
What was that like?
That was interesting. That was interesting. She was a beautiful weaver, but she had a different way. So I was used to coming through to teachers over here. So Whaiatina Warihana was one of my tutors, and it was a teaching kind of thing. She'd talk to you. Auntie's way was quite different, was that you didn't talk, you watched.
Yes. Oh, okay.
So that was like real old school. So part of my mahi was to help prep, and then she would weave. This was only with me because she was a tutor up there, and so she would do the teaching thing up there. But when it came to me learning with her, I would have to watch and prepare, and then when she would get to a certain point, she'd throw it at me to finish it off.
Have you been paying attention?
Yeah. And it was the most rewarding, because I remember watching her weave this kete and got to the end of it and then I had prepped my own in that, and then I wove a kete as well. And that was so much more rewarding, because I had to pull it from what I saw through my eyes and my brain, and to see it finished and to see it done just because I was watching.
Nice.
It's the best.
Is that kind of the teaching you still use to this day as well? I don't know. I'm trying to think of. Or have you taught anyone else how to make a kete?
Yes. A while ago. It was hard because I ended up going through into administration. So I went to help my auntie with her weaving class up there, and so that, with students. And then they had a housing course up there to help our whānau build on Māori land, build their own whare, and they needed a housing officer. And back in those days, they liked to swim. They throw you in the deep end. And they were pretty loose, so they were like, we'll get this girl on board. And then they were like, walk me down to this office, they go, here girl, here's your office, you're the housing officer, okay, see ya, and you're like, hey, but it was pretty awesome, and ended up becoming the housing manager. And we worked on the low deposit rural lending program, so we would have about 100 homes. I think we had got through people to whānau to purchase existing homes and also build, relocate.
That would have been a bit of a process in itself.
Yeah. So it moved from the arts, but what I think it stalled the arts though, because you're always communicating.
Sure.
You're always communicating in a kaupapa. Yeah.
Is there a massive because housing for Māoris, right?
Yeah.
Was it? Was it still struggles the same for Māori housing from when you started doing that?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Now was still the same, or any differences?
I think
Any
there's
improvements?
I think the hard thing is because as time goes by, we produce more of us, and which means there's more shareholders, which means there's more people in those blocks, and the issues are sort of still the same, but there are products that are more available now.
Yeah.
In terms of our whānau being able to access resource to be able to do the housing.
Yep.
I wish they would bring back some of what they did back then. Back then, you could do this housing course for 12 weeks and you got a certificate at the end that said you only needed to come up with 3% deposit. And back then,
Wow.
Housing New Zealand, which is now Kāinga Ora, would be who you would get your mortgage through. And if you had Māori land or Mautapi owned land, as long as it had a trust, which would be easy, you'd have instead of a mortgage agreement, you'd have a tripartite deed, which is between the trust, you and Housing Corporation as the bank to loan so that you can build your whare. But they do have good supports now where TPK can help pay for the infrastructure, which is, your power, your water and stuff like that, which was always a high cost for our whānau back then.
Sure. And now we see the multiplicity. Some want apartments,
Yes.
Mātua flats,
Yes.
papakainga,
Yes.
Sanctuaries
Yes.
of healing,
Yes.
and off-the-grid living.
Yes.
So we've got all these different needs.
Yes.
And so I'm going to just Labour housing policies.
Yeah.
State housing.
Yeah.
I saw that you guys were doing something about state houses as well.
Yeah, first off, just to acknowledge the Māori housing strategy that Labour has pushed through. So it's one of the first that they have, which is for Māori by Māori, and that's about partnering. I mean, we've got a development of 1,100 homes through in partnership with Ngāti Whakaue. That is a project that is coming through. When it comes to 13,000. Homes that Labour have produced, public housing that they've produced in the last thing. I mean, it's still not enough, obviously, and I understand the kaupapa around housing and emergency housing here in Rotorua.
Waiariki, Rotorua.
Oh,
We
Rotorua.
have a bad reputation
Yes,
for
yeah,
that, with the homeless crisis.
yeah.
But I do see some abandoned houses every now and then.
Oh,
On the
yes, I've
farms
heard
here,
about that.
Like,
And similar with the empty homes because they're Airbnbs.
yes,
Yeah.
and people hire them out for holiday homes as well.
In the
Yeah.
past, nearly 70% of the houses out by the lakes would be empty.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
Except
they're
in
batches.
Christmas.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
now more people are moving back to their houses, especially retirees,
Mm.
because it's too expensive to live in town.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're seeing that too with our whānau from the cities. Coming back to our rural areas, it's like a reversal of the urban drift. And there's a lot of our whānau, and I do push back sometimes on. They said, it's like, oh, we've got huge numbers and stuff like that. There's more homeless because of Labour, and it's not necessarily that. It's just that we now have a service that gives access to whānau to seek help, because we had so many whānau who were invisibilised because, and it's the same with what the National Nectar wanting to do with the benefits again, which is what they did last time, is that they would say, oh, we've only got so many people on the benefit. I said, well, because you cut it off.
Right.
That doesn't mean that people are not, in poverty. And I know there were heaps of our whānau who had other whānau staying with them whose benefits had been cut off and were now living off other whānau and they had no income. And it's not because they didn't want to work. A lot of our whānau, especially towards the east and that, majority of our Māori population live in rural areas, which means a long distance to be able to travel to get to it, which means that they need a car. They need a car that's warranted and registered. They need pūtea for their car to be able to do that, to be able to get to those things. So it's not saying that, they're just too kore to be able to go to the interview or anything else like that. There are certain barriers, and if they have to rely on auntie who goes to town on Tuesday to do her shopping to be able to get to that appointment or to get to the things, and if they don't and that benefit's cut off,
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because in the 80s, 90s, it was common practice to say all of those problems you just outlined. Māori, that's you. Now middle class Pākehās have to drive an hour to get to work. Petrol's too expensive. The price of food's too expensive. So now we're all back in the same boat. Isn't that weird?
Well, it will get more noise,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Do you think that's like a percentage of cause for aggravation and violence as well in New Zealand? Because I've noticed growing up, it's more Māoris and Polynesians, and obviously the ones that get mistreated and get lowered in class. They're mostly the ones that either start a fight or steal or start arguments, or if someone looks at them across the street, they look at you and want to fight you or something like that. Do you think that's got to do with the fact that they're struggling as well and they're getting oppressed, and it's just been generation for generation for generation, and now it's generation of aggravation and people just getting mistreated? And if we were to have a better housing, better sustainability for Māoris, better education for Māoris, obviously you guys are helping with the medication by putting prescription as well. Getting, you guys had the Māori Health Authority started last year as well. Do you think this is all going to start help like the less violence, less fights in the schools between kids, less racism and all of that? Do you think that's definitely going to slowly cut that away?
I think it's part of the solution. I think it'll be a strong part of it as well. We have to understand that the way that the elections are looking at the moment, we still have every ability to be able to turn what people are putting in the polls around. Because when we have a high voter turnout, it is the left bloc who ends up winning the election, and if we think about how awesome it would be, because to have a government that is pro Tāneatua, pro Māori, pro social conscious, we've never had that. So, yes, there's a lot of concern in our communities around, if the possibility of national act, because it's our whānau on the front line who will pay hard for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and what was the question? Sorry.
And also with the it's just getting rid of the stigma of racism for obviously Māoris and Islanders, but majorly Māoris at the moment. Sorry, is what you guys are doing is listening that.
Oh, definitely, of course it is, because we have to be able to. One of the things why I stood as a Waiariki candidate, and yes, I mean, it's one of the hardest seats. You're standing up against the leader of the Māori Party, my whanauna, and it is, and everyone's like, oh, she's crazy, but it is to be able to make a stand against the rhetoric of those parties that seek to do damage, and their rhetoric, what they are saying, it emboldens and gives a courage and permission to whānau out there who are anti-Māori to be bold. Now, when we think of these whānau, they're just not floating out anywhere. They're in key positions. They may be doctors, nurses, school teachers, pharmacists, so they operate all through our world, our communities that we live in. And then, you imagine a mama with her sick baby going into a chemist, wanting to get a prescription, and you have somebody who is serving her who now feels this rhetoric that they can be more bold in their views towards Māori.
Judgment.
Now, how do you think that mama's going to be able to walk out of there with that medicine? And that impacts on people's lives, and that maintains the inequality within our system, because it gives permission for that type of kōrero to be a reality. And that is why we need to vote, whānau, and that is why, why I chose to stand, was to be able to ensure that there was push-up, and that I stood at least, because, we've faced this before, haven't we, Poto, when it came to trying to establish Māori wards. Many of us are activists by nature, as well as political by nature, because we are so used having to push back on this and make a stand. And that's really what it's about. People might think, oh, it might not be so bad, blah. You've got ACT talking about removing the principles of the treaty. That is huge. That is huge, and it might take some time for them to do it. That has a huge ripple effect. Removing the health authority, removing Māori wards, those things didn't just happen overnight. They took a long road of many of our leaders over the years, pushing. And so to see those go, it's... I'm worried. I'm worried for our whānau, and that's the thing that makes me pauri, because
So I'm going to ask her, how did you get involved with the Labour Party?
When we had the petition for the Māori wards, through Action Station, so who we delivered it to Tāmati Coffee, who was MP at that time, and also to Nanaia was the one who pushed it through for it to become legislation. So the other one was too is that our Kraiwarua Kinana, so that's my great-great-grandfather, they were going through a process of the pardon. So Nanaia was the Minister of Māori Development at that time. That was part of completing that process and having the pardon. You had the legislation done in Wellington, but also and my uncles who are Ngātoina o Iharaira, and I'm now also part of that trust as well, we're part of pushing that through, and so received the pardon for our karawa at Maunga Pohatu. So there were also 2 our marais. So the amount of marais that were able to access funding to be able to do themselves up. So most of our marais were dilapidated. We didn't have the ability. Our marae was matau, cold. We couldn't have tanehana because we didn't have our, facilities. We didn't have hot water for ages. I mean, yes, we used to boil the big pot, but, nowadays everybody wants hot showers. We can't just go to the river. Someone might get sick and we might get the blame. So being able to access funding, they lifted the 30% criteria. Marae used to have to come up with 30%. They would fundraise for about 15 years,
Just to get 30%, that...
To be able, and then get funding, just to do up the wharenui
Lovely
thing.
Auntie Elsie and Auntie Robbie and all those that did the bring and buys.
All the bring and buys, all of those things, but they lifted that to be able to be 100%. But also too, of course, you had the marae PGF funding. Now that provided mahi for our whānau at home as well, and our ranatahi to be certified through trades. It was huge. So that's awesome.
Is that still running?
Yes.
Well? That's still running?
Well, this is what we risk losing. So ACT want to get rid of TPK, which is basically the Department for Māori. They want to get rid of Ministry of Women, get rid of Ministry for Pacifica people. So if TPK goes, because they're that's our Māori development, basically gone.
And what we do. So I saw the Labour Party policy, 130 years since women voted.
Yes.
So what does being a Māori woman mean for you, and what kind of policies do you see?
And as a Māori warden as well.
Māori ward councillor, yeah. Yeah. I think firstly, it's a privilege, I guess, to be able to represent our whānau. I think more than represent, it's just be a servant, you know, because when it comes to being part of the Labour Party, it's also about a koha back to what we've been able to do in our homelands under this government, and it is an acknowledgement of all of that work. You know, we've had unprecedented funding, 4 billion and it's not about the money. It's the fact that we've been able to have voices in there to secure that, to be able to develop things for our whānau from a Māori kaupapa point of view. But as there was also, so women's suffrage around the thing to be able to vote. But we also have to remember, I think it was Mere Mangakahia, who was Te Rārawa, that's on my mum's side, the Te Rārawa side. So she went to Māori Parliament at that same time to ask not only about voting, but to participate in the elections to be a member. So our Māori women were right up there in terms of not just asking for the vote, but the fact is to stand as a member of Parliament. Yeah. So it's that, and because in those days it was normal. There was no, gender kind of thing, imbalance, because it was natural, it was normal that wahine would be making decisions just as tāne in everything.
But the patriarchal colonial church-based system has pulled that away. So part of it has been to bring it back, but also to reveal that it never left. Because in our Māori communities,
it's still there. I mean, you know who rules the marae. You know who everybody fears. That if you didn't get that right, that nanny, that auntie's, it'll be like, what would Nan say? Exactly. And it is. And there's also too. Remember back in those days, like coming from Waimana and Tūhoi and that, and we everyone used to say, Tūhoi mau mau kai mau mau taona mau mau tangata i te pō, and it was about a generosity that they had. And so when we used to go out there, because Dad played rugby, so come back, what I remember the most was hugging aprons and just these big hugs, where I don't know who they was, but it was just love. And then if you went and played at their place, or you were there, or Dad and them were visiting or something, you looked at something or touched something, you usually walked home, it was given to you, because there was that free generosity. But also too, it was always our kuia they would rally on the cause, that they would go to marae, hui, 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 and they would be the ones who would be rallying, who would be, like if there was something that needed to be done. It's the same with our kuia who built our marae tuapo, which is built around our ruakena's house, and tomb. So our wahine were always in those spaces, so it's nothing, new, but it is about, it's the same thing about decolonising that space. Labour was the first government to be able to recently, where we had 50-50 in the House of gender equality, so 50% were wahine in Parliament. The first, I think one of the first in the world to be able to achieve that. And guess who achieved that? There was a Māori wahine who was the one who tipped it over, Soraya Peke Mason. Nice. So she came in, when she came in, she then tipped the scale. That's so good. It was 50-50. So
very hopeful. It's very hopeful for the future. Because I think sometimes we get caught up in the past. Yeah. So always forcing to look backward when actually we want to look forward. Yeah. So speaking of looking forward, I have some random key questions. Okay, coming hard and fast, whānau. So first off, who is your favourite Pokemon?
My favourite Pokemon?
Do you have a favourite Pokemon?
Is there a pink one? Nah.
Yep. Jigglypuff.
Yeah.
Depends. What is your favourite cartoon?
Oh, my favourite cartoon. Who would it be? What's my favourite cartoon? That's a really hard one. Oh, gee. It's like when someone asks you, can you tell a joke and you can't think of a joke? Yeah. What's my favourite cartoon? Okay.
Wonder Woman or Spider Girl?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones?
That's hard.
One was in New Zealand, and the other one was in New Zealand for a snippet.
I really
And it
like
created jobs as well.
Yeah, that's a hard one, but I do like, it would be really cool to be the Queen of Dragons.
Yes. Which house would you be in at Hogwarts?
There's Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and
Gryffindor, I think.
Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Gryffindor.
Hey, listen.
There's
Ben.
Ben's one as well.
And isn't Gryffindor red?
Gryffindor's red. Green.
See, that makes sense.
Red,
That
green.
actually makes sense. Who's the best New Zealand animated character?
Animated,
Yeah.
like as in.
The Goodnight Kiwi.
Oh,
Flats, broke down.
oh,
Who
true.
would you put up there?
Animated character.
Or was it the McDonald's dude who was in the McDonald's ads? Those are pretty cool ads.
Ah,
Oh, them lovely.
what's his name? Borg? No. I don't know. I was thinking of Guardians of the Galaxy.
And speaking of that one, do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe in aliens? Well, it just depends on what you define as an alien. I guess extraterrestrial.
There have been some Māori stories of obviously people out of the world.
Oh well, I think it would be, like if we think about our pūrākau and stuff like that. When we look at our whakapapa in terms of where we come from Io, and the whole creation story of us basically evolving out of the universe, how can there not be life elsewhere out? Because that it only makes sense to.
Cool recent fact as well. They scientists have definitely proven that humans are actually made out of star matter.
Oh, so they just found out now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, no, indigenous cultures have been talking about, like, when we think about our pūrākau and our stories and that, and everyone used to think, oh, that's folklore, that's mythical and stuff like that. I mean, it's probably really clever marketing to be able to pass down this kōrero for thousands of years if you make it really cool.
That's what they need. That's what scientists need to do. They need to go to every indigenous tribe and just do a scientific research on every single mythology and legend, and obviously, like, most of them are going to be true, because how can you make up a story of a dragon? Because obviously
Walt Disney stole stories
from
all the folks. There's Hans Christian Andersen used the stories, and what's the other guys? The brothers Grimm. They stole stories.
And apparently
But
the
they
knights
were
fought
sharing
dinosaurs as well, and they called them the dragons.
Share stories.
Yeah.
Even the Bible as well. The Bible, the Christians have, in the section it says there was a monster, a dragon with spikes on its back, breathing fire, but it was a long spike like those dinosaurs with like paddle sticks on their back. Yeah, exactly. Describing that. It's like, dragons are real, but they're not dragons.
Well, and that's about knowledge systems as well. So there's been different knowledge systems all over the world. But there's also those knowledge systems who have gathered from others, but then tried to ensure nobody else found out, and then tried to be the dominant one. But we do. And see, within our own cultures, we celebrate the differences in terms of our pūrākau. So, so that whole thing about one has to be the winner of the story is not really, we can operate where, so in whakatāne, Ngāti Awa, Tūhoi will say that it was Wairaka who swam out and got the waka when it floated away, and said, kia whakatāne au ia hau. And then you go over to our whanaungas over in Whakatohea, over in Opotiki, and they will say, no, it was her auntie Muriwai who did it, and who was the one who saved the waka. And the thing is that we can turn around and go, oh, see, kia ora to that. Oh, well, that's Whakatohea when you hear that story. And they'll say, oh, that's Ngāti Awa Tūhoi when you hear that story. So the fact that they are different stories is actually celebrated because it means that your identity is quickly acknowledged.
Yeah.
So, so there's a different way in terms of how our knowledge systems can be celebrated, but also looked after, not stomped in because someone might find out you stole it from someone else.
That's right, yeah.
And there can be a lot of because for Māoris they hand it down not in scriptures like a lot, they hand it down in words, and they always from one mind to another. Do you reckon a lot of loss in translation? And especially between that 70-year period of being oppressed as well. I think it's 70, but when Māoris got oppressed, couldn't speak their language, couldn't go out that much, always got things thrown at them. There's that oppression era. Do you think there was a lot of lost in translation, a lot of lost stories, a lot of lost Māori laws?
Yes, of course there was, and it was done purposely. There were assimilation policies, which were at the time, because this whole whakaaro coming from a Christian, view of sort of superiority, which sort of said, well, we're going to give you better lives, we're going to look after you. So to do that, you need to let go of all those old ways, and you need to be able to learn to be a really good brown Pākehā. So there were specific policies, and I think there's a thing called the Hun Report in the 1960s. So there were 3 specific things that they looked at for Māori, and it was, one was that to be able to have the young people assimilate to go into the cities to be part of the labour at that time. You had the urban drift, to learn the skills, to become trained, to be part of building the cities. Then you also had the one where the old people would be left behind. And so they would be left in their lands, and then the traditions and things, and that would then decline as well, or disappear with them. We'd just leave them there for their cult, to die out. And then of course you had the education, which was part of trying to ensure that Māori, became educated in the Pākehā system and world, and the housing where they were pepper potted and put into
integrate and
assimilate, And
sounds like a bad Star Trek movie.
But we're still here.
Yes.
And we come back stronger than ever. But it's also too, I think one of the things is that we can understand that whakapapa, and it is mamai whakapapa of what has happened with our whānau. But also too, we do have to, for taku whakaaro, is that we have to find a third space where we can be redi, we can be angry at our Pākehā whānau and stuff like that, and have a thing on them. And yes, we will go hard to those who continue to reinforce the kaikiri whakaaro and that. But that generation is slowly, dying off. And what we still need to bring whānau along with us. And that's also too because we have a lot more of our Pākehā whānau now, even in my generation, who have grown up in a post-treaty settlement era.
Yeah.
So we have grown up in the last 20 years where settlements have been settled, where the kōrero, the pono kōrero of where we live and where we operate has come through. So slowly over the years, a lot of our Pākehā whānau are aware more than ever. And we have to remember that and not place them in a category as being those people 70 years ago,
Yes, that's right.
because they're not, and this is not like giving them excuse to not be accountable to because they, you know, our whānau, you know, we get that all the time.
Just because they don't know, it doesn't mean we've forgotten.
No, well, that's right, and I get it too. I've had it in council even, you know, where people have said, "Oh, Toni, so when when Māori are going to get over, you know, colonisation," or, you know, they always keep on bringing it up. And they're just being honest. These are questions that they're wanting to answer. And I said, oh, well, you know, colonisation hasn't stopped. Mm-hmm. You know, it's an ongoing thing. It's not something that's placed back there. But we also have to bring our whānau along with us. Yeah. And that includes our Pākehā whānau. So it's not like denying us from having our rights, but we also have to make sure that we're not swapping places. Yeah. This is, you know, we're not swapping places.
That now you were the master and we were the slaves, and now we're the master and you were the slaves.
Do you
think that's some of the fear of some of the old guys?
Oh, of course, that's always the fear. I mean, you know, there is a sense of fear that we think like those people, and the issue is that we don't, you know. So there's a fear that if Māori were to receive power, that we would do what they have done to us. Sure. But time and time again, that wouldn't happen. You know, there is a different whakaaro around power.
We probably want to add to the system, like to bring aroha to the system.
Exactly. You know, that's the different whakaaro, the mindset, you know, in a Western sort of whakaaro, is just like you can only have more power if you keep it to, you know, to you. Whereas from a Te Ao Māori perspective, when you share power, you actually have more, not less. You know, so and we've seen it whenever there's been disasters, whenever communities are in need. No matter how little we have, no matter what has been done to us, we will still open our arms, open our marae, and we will still look after people. So, you know, that is a myth, fear that Pākehā have been fed.
I've got two things. So first one is the differences in one sentence are kōrero about the other parties. So one sentence, the ACT party.
Well, that's why they're called ACT, because they're just pretending.
Okay. Yeah.
New Zealand first.
Oh, koro, you need to go home.
Te Pāti Māori.
I love my cousin.
Nice. And the National Party.
I want my tax back.
Yeah, mamai. Yeah.
What about Freedom Party?
My whanauna as well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Vision,
Yeah, Vision.
Yeah. I mean, you know, kia kaha to them.
Sure.
I know there's mamai there too.
Yeah. And so the elections are on now, and you can vote all the way up until Saturday.
Yes.
What's some advice that you would give to your whanaunga, especially the young ones watching all of you? You know.
Kai a koe te mana. Kai a koutou te mana. You have the power within you to be able to ensure we have a government that looks after our people, our whānau, our taiao. This isn't about having a whawhai between Labour, Māori Party, not at all. This is about what our whānau need right now, and the concern of what will happen with the National and ACT government. We need to come together to be able to get everybody out to vote. I know everyone has said, you know, this is one of the most important elections for Māoridom. Not only because we have the most to lose, but also because we have the most to be hurt by these other parties. And it is mamai whānau. We need each and every one of you. Pick up your whānau, pick up your cousins, get the kaumātua van, get somebody's van, you know, Even if it rains, just because it rains, whānau, I go, oh, I'm too hoha. Even if you're hungover, just think about that kai afterwards, or plan to do something or get together after you've all done your vote. Even make it a competition. Make it a competition, you know, check up and make sure who's voted first or whatever it is, or which whānau got the most
So,
votes.
Ngāti Whakaue, this is again, Ngāti Pikiao, Whakatohi,
Aye.
Te whānau Apanui.
Aunties, get your whānau out there. If they don't, give them a little slap.
That's actually a
Get them
good
going
strategy, eh? The little orange man should be talking to the whānau hapu,
Aye.
the iwi.
Aye.
wrong. Aunties, uncles, koros.
But
Oh,
like I
we
say,
do.
I really admire what you're doing and appreciate you coming in
Oh,
tonight.
ka pai.
I had a good time listening.
Yeah, I did. I just want one quick question. One important question. I almost forgot it. As a Māori, like everybody vote. Because obviously, it is. as you
Party
said-
vote Labour, Toni Boynton.
Yep. As a Waiariki candidate and as a Māori warden for the council,
That's right.
what are the changes, your vision for the next year, if you do or you don't get elected, but which I really do hope you do, what are your changes and your visions for the next year or two?
Well, a lot of that has to do with what's happening with our whānau, our iwi and our hapu at the moment, being able to ensure that the projects, and there's a lot of them, particularly housing, are well supported. And also there are different kaupapa across the rohe where whānau have come with specific things that they want to see progressed. You know, I know my uncle Ngā Toina is one of their things is the rural prerogative of mercy, which is to do with ensuring that the Kraua Ruakinana's criminal record is expunged. Because even though he's had a pardon, he still exists as a criminal. So, you know, those are just one of the things. There's other kaupapa too that whānau have come through. So my main thing is to be a servant to those, to our whānau and to our kaupapa. Yeah.
And do you have any plans for Christmas or the New Year's? Oh no, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah.
No.
Not yet, because my older boys they've moved out. They're doing their own thing.
Yes.
So
Oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, but it's like figuring out. Oh, hang on, where we're all going to be for Christmas? So it's either going to be at home in Whakatane, but on my mother's side, which is from Ahipara, Kai Taia, you know, I would love dearly to go up back there for a little bit. I've got my sisters up there, but also, if not, it'll be in Whakatane or Waimana.
Oh yes, we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Whakatane, I just want to say, best McChicken, spicy McChicken, McDonald's, best one out of the whole region.
Go Apanui Primary School. We're just going to give shout outs to Whai. Thank
Yes.
you for your tautoko and raukawa. Kia ora rauks.
So, also, yeah, she was the host of the karaoke. Hopefully, you guys want to do another karaoke as well.
Oh,
Karaoke.
yeah.
She's got one coming up in level 13. I think
Next week.
this Saturday or next week. Next week. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a huge privilege, and thank you for having me on the show. It's been awesome. You guys, this whole setup is amazing.
No worries. Thank you so much.
And all the best to you on the road the next 4 days.
Yes, yeah.
Remember, whānau, get out there, vote. You get your little orange card. If you're onto it, you can go down there, just easy as
Yeah.
vote. One for the person you like in your electorate,
Yeah.
and one for the party.
Yeah.
Or it only takes 5 minutes, and then you can get a pie right after.
Get a sticker.
Yeah, just get down there, whānau. I mean, if you don't worry if you're not enrolled, because you can do it straight away. You can do a special vote, and just as long as you're over 18, take your bros along. Yeah.
Make it an event.
Yeah, hard out.
Do a TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok voting.
Yeah.
And I think
no one's got a TikTok vote dance.
No.
Yeah.
Should we advertise?
Well, and that's the thing, whānau, is that when we have a high voter turnout, it is our whānau who wins. So it is the left bloc that wins. And I know it's this whole thing about left and right, but you know, we've got a huge possibility. All we need is another 3%, I think, for Labour, 3 to 4%, and then we'll have enough numbers to be government. And you know who that we will be going into government with. You know, imagine the coalition between Māori Party, Greens and Labour. Now that has never happened before. And, you know, so you look at the policies that everybody has, they have to be able to work together. But it'll be one of the most pro-Tāo, pro-Māori, pro-whānau governments that we would ever had. So that's what we can drive towards. And if it's the fear that National is going to be really bad for our whānau, and it's mamai for me. I remember when under National's policies I took my baby to A&E and was turned away 4 times. And I knew something was wrong with him, so I went back and I said, there's something wrong with my baby, you need to run the test. They didn't want to spend the money to run the test because of the funding cuts that they had under National government. I was really lucky that a new doctor had come on board and he decided to do that test. They found out that he had silent pneumonia, and if I had not taken him back, he would have died that night.
Wow.
So when we think about how a government who comes in, their whakaaro sets the rules, the ture, their impact on our everyday lives, whānau.
Yeah.
So we need you to vote to stop them from coming in, and we need you to vote to be able to vote in a government that is going to look after all of us. Kia ora.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Please do vote, guys. Make sure you get your votes in, because if you don't, Aotearoa is going to be pretty ugly in the next couple of years. No, to be honest, it's going to be. But yeah, thank you for tonight, guys. We're going to start wrapping it up. Hour has gone past really fast. It was really enjoyable. Honestly, really enjoyable. Learning about, because me and myself being a foreigner, learning more about the kaupapa, learning more about history and the visions that we want for Māoris here as well, and of course for any other Indigenous people in this country, because at the moment it's not the Asian Pākehā or anything that's putting the restrictions. You guys know who you are. But yeah, make sure you get the votes in. We want to flip and turn the table in a good way, and make sure things go right. As for CGA, for the next couple of weeks. So next week we're gonna have on Monday we're gonna have Sister Act. We're gonna have the director and a choreographer. No, not the choreographer. The director and one of the cast come in and talk. And then the week after that we have a was it Halloween?
Oh,
Halloween on the 28th. Yes. Halloween party. We have a Halloween party at Abracadabra. $20. First free drink. 18 and over, guys. Yep. But yeah,
we'll be doing promos, and we still haven't done our mukbang.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. We want to go on the road, eat all the food in Rotorua. I showed the bros Vice. So the bro from Canada came down here, ate here in Rotorua, didn't even invite us.
What?
Remember that Munchies one? He came,
had
the hangi, went to Hell's Gate, went to the gondolas, didn't even invite us. So that's what we've got to start eating. And when people from overseas come in, cousins, where's the best place to eat? We'll be like, say less.
Say less. The uncle's down there, he's got a pit duck. Pit duck.
So far I've heard Te Puia has beautiful food. So we've got to go to Te Puia. Annie's tapas bar across from McDonald's. So
which McDonald's?
Carl's
Fury
Jr.
Springs?
Straight across. There's House Pizza.
Oh, yes.
Right next door.
Okay.
Anna's tapas bar and gin bar. That I've heard great feedback there. And the White Tiger.
And the White Tiger, that's near Abracadabra, near the
down
Estates.
Street
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Was
moved.
it? They moved? Oh wow,
Anyway,
they did really
there's so
good.
much food. So we're going to be eating away across Rotorua in the next couple of months. Levi joining us, yes.
And we might have a little bit of alcohol poisoning in the next couple of weeks.
And yes, we've also got our gaming and drinking. It's a thing.
Yep.
It's a thing.
We're getting.
We played chess whānau and it actually went too far. Some of my comments went too far.
I didn't like the fact I was losing all the time. No,
I can't play chess. So I was actually celebrating my win. Anyway,
thank you,
for this beautiful night, and thank you again, Toni.
Oh, no, thank you.
It was very
Thank you
lovely
so
to
much.
have you in.
Oh, lovely to be here.
And hopefully we'll try to get you in the future as well.
Yeah.
For some more. Awesome.
Aye.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for coming in. Che. Che, whānau. Thank you for coming in.